Forget all the dating advice you've heard. Every book, every YouTube short, every friend's tip about texting him this or doing that to make him stay. Throw it all away for a moment. Because this is different. Let me ask you something. What if the most powerful thing you could say to a man was nothing at all? What if your silence, your graceful, unapologetic silence, could shift the entire emotional landscape of your relationship? What if the quiet you offer doesn't push him away, but pulls him closer? Not with desperation, not with pleading, but with deep magnetic desire. You see, I once believed that in order to be seen in a relationship, I had to be louder. I had to explain myself. I had to over-give, over-function, over-speak. I thought love meant proving my value with every word I uttered. And yet, I found myself in a place so many women know all too well, emotionally starved, unheard, and exhausted. I remember sitting across from him one night, trying to hold a conversation while he stared at his phone. My voice kept filling the silence, trying to bridge the widening gap between us. I asked him questions. I offered solutions. I tried jokes. I even asked, "Is something wrong?" And all I got was a shrug. And it hit me. I wasn't being ignored because I was too quiet. I was being ignored because I was too available. That night, something inside me cracked open. I stopped speaking, not out of anger, not out of punishment. I simply fell silent. And in that quiet, in the sacred stillness I created for myself, I discovered something extraordinary. I discovered power, not the kind of power that needs to control, not the kind that plays games. I'm talking about the kind of power that comes from self-respect, from presence, from knowing you are enough, with or without his validation. And something remarkable happened. He looked up, he noticed, he leaned in, and for the first time in a long time, he chased me. Because here's the truth most people won't tell you: men don't fall in love with noise. They fall in love with the woman who can make silence feel like a mystery. Now, let's go deeper. Much deeper. Silence isn't just the absence of words. It's a language of its own. In the world of high-value communication, silence speaks volumes. It tells him, I'm not afraid to be with myself. It says, I don't chase what doesn't nourish me. It whispers, you'll feel my absence before I ever have to announce my departure. Think about this. When was the last time he truly had to wonder what you were thinking? When was the last time your silence echoed louder than your speech? When was the last time he had to earn your words instead of taking them for granted? We've been taught that love is built through constant talking, checking in, clarifying, and expressing. And yes, those things matter, but real intimacy is not built on words alone. Real connection happens in the space between the words, in the pregnant pause, in the moment you pull back, not out of spite, but out of sovereignty. Men are wired to pursue. It's not manipulation. It's instinct. When something becomes too easy, too predictable, too available, it loses its luster. But when a woman becomes an oasis of mystery, a beacon of calm, of presence, not withholding, not cold, but unavailable to nonsense. She becomes unforgettable. Let's step back in time for a moment. Cleopatra, Queen of Egypt, the original seductress. Her allure wasn't just in her beauty, it was in her presence. She knew how to make silence speak. When she met Julius Caesar, she didn't beg for his attention. She arrived rolled up in a carpet, unannounced, unexpected, and utterly silent. And in that moment of theatrical, intentional stillness, she created a gravitational pull so strong that it altered the course of history. Her silence wasn't passive, it was calculated. It said, "You will discover me on my terms." And that, my friend, is where the magic lies. We often think we have to explain our worth to men, that we have to prove why we're a good choice. But the women who truly ignite desire, lasting, passionate, soulful desire, are the ones who don't audition for love. They understand that silence is a doorway, a filter, a mirror. And yes, silence can be terrifying at first, especially when you've been conditioned to associate it with rejection. Maybe you've been on the other side of the silent treatment before, when someone used it to control or punish you. That's not what we're doing here. We're not weaponizing silence. We're worshiping it. We're turning silence into a spiritual practice, a sacred art, a reminder to him and to yourself that you will not fill spaces where you are not cherished. You will not speak just to soothe his ego. You will not beg for a response, an answer, or a crumb of affection. You will stand or sit in your silence and wait, because silence allows something crucial to happen: reflection. When you pull back, he begins to feel the contrast. He remembers your light, your voice, your laughter, your attention. He begins to feel the loss of what he was taking for granted. And in that space, desire is reignited. Because desire, by nature, requires distance, a little mystery, a little hunger, too much closeness, too much noise, and it begins to die. But a woman who knows how to disappear into her silence without losing herself, that woman becomes unforgettable. Let's get even more real. If he hasn't texted in days, and you're the one who always reaches out first, stop. If he pulls away emotionally and you chase harder, stop. If you feel like you're always explaining yourself, defending your needs, pleading to be heard, stop. Instead, go silent, not with bitterness, not with resentment, but with elegance, with self-respect, with calm. Withdraw your attention, not to manipulate him, but to protect your peace. And in that withdrawal, you will learn something profound about both him and yourself. Because here's the truth that most people don't want to face. How he responds to your silence reveals everything. Some men will be triggered by it. They will call you cold, dramatic, aloof. That's because they were never truly listening in the first place. They were just used to the sound of you softening every moment with your presence. But the right man, he'll pause, he'll reflect, he'll reach, because he will realize that your silence isn't emptiness. It's a mirror. And in that mirror, he'll see himself more clearly than he ever has. He'll remember the warmth of your voice because it's no longer a given. He'll remember the light in your eyes because it's no longer always shining for him. He'll begin to crave not just your body, but your soul, your mind, your presence. Because in a world full of noise, a woman who masters silence becomes a sanctuary. Now, let's talk psychology for a moment. There's a well-known phenomenon called psychological reactance. It's the brain's automatic response to perceived loss of freedom. When something becomes less available, we begin to want it more, not because it has changed, but because our access to it has changed. This is why silence is so powerful in dating and relationships. When you go quiet, when you remove your energy, your texts, your emotional labor, you trigger a subtle but profound shift in his mind. He begins to ask questions, to notice, to lean in. But here's where most people get it wrong. They use silence as a trick, a gimmick. They go quiet for 2 days, then explode with, "Why didn't you call me?" And in that moment, the power is lost because the silence wasn't rooted in self-respect. It was rooted in fear. If you want to master the art of silence, it has to come from a deeper place, a place of inner stillness, a place where you know deeply, fiercely, unapologetically that your presence is a gift. And if someone cannot value it, then they don't deserve unlimited access to it. Not everyone deserves to hear you. Not everyone deserves the sound of your laughter, the warmth of your encouragement, the rhythm of your presence. Your silence is sacred. When wielded with love and intention, it becomes the very thing that draws him closer, not with force, but with fascination. He begins to realize, she's not chasing me. She's not begging. She's not explaining. She's just being. And that is where the magnetism begins. In the next part, we will go even deeper. You'll discover how to recognize the right moments to go silent and how to do it without guilt. We'll unpack the difference between healthy silence and emotional shutdowns and how to know if your silence is empowering or avoiding. And most importantly, we'll explore how to build a relationship where silence is respected, not feared, and where your voice, when you choose to use it, becomes the most powerful sound in his world. Because you're not just going silent, you're becoming unforgettable. But I need to tell you something first. Silence doesn't work if it's rooted in anxiety. It doesn't work if you're panicking inside, counting the seconds until he texts, staring at the clock, wondering if you should break it first, because that's not silence. That's suppression. That's holding your breath. And believe me, he can feel that. True, feminine, magnetic silence. It doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't wait with expectation. It simply is. It lives in the woman who has reclaimed her value. So let's talk about how you actually live in that silence. Powerfully, not passively. Let's say you've just had a conversation where he pulled away. Maybe he didn't respond to your vulnerability. Maybe he dismissed your emotions. Maybe he vanished without explanation. Your first instinct might be to text him something like, "Can we talk?" I just want to understand. I don't know where we stand. And while there's nothing inherently wrong with expressing your truth, the timing of that expression matters. Because when you express yourself to a man who isn't listening, your voice becomes background noise. It loses its power. So what do you do instead? You pull back, not out of anger, but out of wisdom. You withdraw your energy, not to punish, but to protect. You stop speaking, not because you don't have something to say, but because you're waiting until someone is worthy of hearing it. And here's what happens. At first, he may not notice, but silence has a way of creeping in slowly, then all at once. It grows in the gaps. It multiplies in the absence of energy. And eventually, if he values you, he feels it. He starts to ask himself questions he hasn't asked in a long time. Why hasn't she called? Why isn't she reacting? Why do I feel this emptiness where her presence used to be? This is where the shift happens. Men are often emotionally delayed responders. It's not because they're heartless. It's because society has trained them to avoid discomfort, to disconnect from emotion, to numb the truth with distractions. But when you go silent, not out of coldness, but from clarity, they're forced to sit with the absence. And in that absence, they start to feel what your presence truly meant. Let's go deeper with a story. There was a woman named Elena, soft, strong, intuitive. She had been dating a man for almost a year. Things started beautifully. Flowers, long conversations, vulnerability. But slowly, she noticed something shift. He became less available. He started taking her for granted, showing up late, forgetting promises. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't unkind, but he was slowly pulling away. She tried to talk. He gave her vague reassurances. She cried. He held her, but nothing changed. So one day, she stopped. No drama, no threats, no confrontation. She just paused. She stopped initiating texts. She didn't chase answers. She sat in the discomfort of not fixing what wasn't hers to fix. At first, he didn't notice. He thought she'd be back, like she always was. But days passed, then a week, and suddenly his silence felt deafening. He sent her a message. Hey, are you okay? You've been quiet. I miss you. But here's the twist. By the time he noticed, Alana had noticed too. She had discovered peace. She had realized that the silence she once feared, the loneliness, the stillness, was actually her freedom. She wasn't using silence to get him back. She was using it to get herself back. And that's where real transformation begins. You don't go silent to win him. You go silent to find you. Because once you do that, once you reconnect with the part of you that knows your worth, your boundaries, your sacred space, you stop fearing whether or not he comes back. You stop measuring your value based on his response. You start asking deeper questions. Do I even want someone who only values me when I'm gone? Can I build a life so full, so rich, so grounded, that silence becomes my sanctuary, not my punishment? Let's talk about the difference between strategic withdrawal and emotional shutdown. Because this distinction matters. Shutdown comes from fear. It's reactive. It says, you hurt me, so I'll hurt you back by vanishing. Strategic withdrawal comes from strength. It's intentional. It says, I see that this is misaligned, and instead of forcing a connection, I will create space. For me, for you, for truth. And you know what happens when you do this? Real men rise. They sense the energy shift. They step up or step out. They reveal themselves. And that's what you want. Not to control someone into loving you, but to allow their authentic response to emerge when your energy is no longer filling in all the gaps. Let's turn now to philosophy, because this concept of sacred silence is ancient. In Taoism, there is a teaching. The Tao does not speak. The Tao does not blame. The Tao does not take sides. The Tao does not seek to control. It holds everything within it. That is feminine silence. It is not the absence of power. It is the fullness of it. It is the mountain unmoved by the storm. It is the moon that pulls oceans with no voice at all. It is the depth that doesn't scream, but still commands awe. So how do you embody this in your relationship? How do you make silence your ally, not your enemy? Start small. The next time he pulls away, pause. The next time you feel the urge to explain your worth, pause. The next time your heart races with the fear of being abandoned, breathe. Then pause again. Because silence, when practiced consciously, becomes your mirror. You begin to see how much of your energy was being spent on proving instead of being, on explaining instead of experiencing, on reaching out instead of reaching inward. And here's the paradox. When you no longer need to be heard in order to feel worthy, that's when your voice becomes the most powerful. Because when you do speak again, when you choose to break the silence, it will not come from fear. It will not be tainted with anxiety. It will land like truth. It will resonate like music. And he will feel the difference. He will hear the clarity in your voice. He will know this is a woman who doesn't speak to fill the silence. This is a woman who speaks when she has something sacred to say. Let's go back in history again, this time to Queen Esther, a woman chosen for her beauty, living in a palace of men, surrounded by danger. Her people were under threat. She was silent for a time. Strategically, she didn't speak immediately. She waited. She observed. And then, when the moment was right, she approached the king and with a few bold, perfectly timed words, she saved a nation. Powerful women know this. Timing is everything. There's a time to speak, a time to cry, a time to walk away, and a time to go beautifully, unapologetically quiet. But hear me, silence isn't passive. It's an active choice. It's a decision to retreat inward and find alignment before returning outward. And sometimes it's the most seductive thing you can do. Not because it's a game, but because it's a reminder to him that he's not entitled to your light, that attention is earned, not owed, that your love is not background noise. It's a sacred frequency. And if he wants to hear it again, he must come closer, listen deeper, and meet you where you are. In the next part, we'll talk about what happens after silence, how to return to communication without giving your power away, how to respond if he reaches out, and how to know if the silence revealed a man worth keeping or one worth releasing. Because silence isn't just a pause, it's a test, a filter, a revelation. And for the woman who wields it wisely, it becomes the spark that ignites everything she truly desires. Let's talk about what happens next. You've gone silent, not in rage, not in manipulation, but from a place of unshakable self-respect. Now he texts, maybe he calls, maybe he sends a casual, "Hey, you good?" Maybe he's suddenly full of interest and energy again. And now, you're standing at the cross. Do you answer? Do you hold? Do you respond with warmth? Or do you protect your new found peace? Here's the most important thing you must remember in this moment. The goal of your silence was never just to provoke a reaction. It was to provoke clarity. Clarity about him. Clarity about you. Clarity about whether this connection deserves another breath of your energy or a graceful ending. Because silence is not just a weapon. It's a window. It shows you what's real. So when he comes back, and if your silence has created contrast, he will come back. Don't rush to fill the gap. Pause. Look at his words. But more importantly, watch his actions. Does he acknowledge the distance with humility? Does he ask questions? Does he show accountability, curiosity, vulnerability? Or does he just want access again? Access to your warmth, your softness, your attention, without taking ownership for why it faded in the first place. You must discern, is he responding because he missed you or because he missed what you gave him? Because there's a difference. A man who misses you because he feels entitled to your energy will say anything to get it back. A man who misses you because he values you will come with clarity, presence, respect. And here's your choice now. You can break your silence with softness without losing your power. You don't have to stay in silence forever. Silence is a tool, not a permanent home. You don't need to prove you've moved on. You don't need to be cold or distant. You can answer with warmth and boundaries. You can say, I've taken some time for myself. It's been good for me. I'm open to talking, but I'm listening for consistency now. Let's talk. But I need something different this time. Because now your silence has raised the standard. And that's the real gift of this entire journey. You didn't just make him crave you. You made yourself sacred again. You elevated the vibration of your presence. You reclaimed your voice. You rewired your nervous system to no longer chase closure from a man who hasn't earned your truth. Let's talk about closure, because this is where many women fall back into the trap. They go silent, he comes back. But the emotional longing still lingers. The mind spins. What if he's changed? What if he's finally ready? What if I lose this chance forever? And this is where the deepest inner work begins. Because the real breakthrough is not when he comes back. It's when you no longer need him to. That's when your silence evolves into sovereignty, not indifference, not bitterness, but a calm, quiet wholeness that says, I am love, and I will not beg to be received. Now I want to share something intimate. There was a woman I worked with. Let's call her Mira. Mira had been in a situationship for nearly 2 years. A man who was emotionally inconsistent, hot and cold, affectionate one day and cold the next. She always initiated. She always reached out. She always forgave. And then one day, she stopped. She didn't announce it. She didn't block him. She simply stopped participating. She turned her focus inward. She went to therapy. She started painting again. She reconnected with friends. She sat with the ache, the silence, the longing. And in that sacred stillness, she discovered her own rhythm again. Weeks later, he messaged her. He said, "You feel different. I miss you. I want to see you." But by then, Mira wasn't angry. She wasn't even longing. She looked at his message and realized she didn't want to go back to the version of herself that tolerated breadcrumbs. She thanked him. She closed the door with grace, not because she hated him, but because she had come home to herself. That is the ultimate power of silence. It doesn't just change him. It changes you. It helps you break the cycle of over-functioning, over-explaining, over-giving. It allows you to witness who stays when your energy is no longer chasing. It teaches you to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. And in that discomfort, in that quiet cocoon, you are reborn. Now, let's flip the perspective. What if the silence reveals that he never reaches out? What if your withdrawal is met with nothing? Does that mean you failed? No, it means you succeeded faster. Because silence is a filter. It reveals who was truly invested and who was merely entertained. It's better to lose a man through silence than keep one who only responds to your noise. It's better to watch him disappear now than waste years trying to make him hear you. Because you were never meant to convince someone to value you. You were meant to remind them by the way you value yourself. And sometimes silence is the only reminder they'll hear. Now I want to share something raw. There will be nights when you miss him, even if he didn't treat you right, even if you know silence is the best thing for your soul. There will be moments where you'll want to break the silence just to feel something, anything. And in those moments, I want you to remember this: silence is not emptiness. It is full of wisdom. It is full of healing. It is full of answers that noise kept drowning out. Let the silence do what it came to do. Let it show you the parts of yourself that were too loud to hear before. Let it bring you back to the version of you who doesn't chase, she attracts. She doesn't beg, she becomes. She doesn't fear the quiet, she creates from it. And in doing so, she becomes a magnet for real love. Love that sees her, meets her, cherishes her. Because the truth is this: the man who is meant for you will not fear your silence. He will rise to meet it. He will feel the shift and respond with presence. He will miss the sound of your voice and earn the right to hear it again. He will remember what it feels like to be around a woman who doesn't need to speak to be powerful. And if he doesn't, then you'll know. You'll know that the man who needed noise to stay connected was never really connected at all. You will bless the silence for revealing that truth, and you will walk forward not in bitterness, but in brilliance. Now, I want you to take this wisdom and make it part of your life. Not just something you watched on a video, but something you embody. Let silence become your sanctuary, not your prison. Let it become a spiritual practice, not a manipulative strategy. Let it be the place where you heal, where you listen, where you grow. And when you speak again, when you return to the world, to him, to yourself, let your voice carry the weight of your awakening. Let it echo with self-love. Let it sing with sovereignty. Let it say, without a single ounce of desperation, I am not afraid to be alone. I am not afraid to be quiet. I am not afraid to be powerful. Because you are. You are a woman reborn in the fire of her own stillness. You are a force that no longer needs to yell to be heard. You are the pause that makes the music more beautiful. And the right man, the one who's emotionally mature, grounded, and ready for real love, will find your silence not confusing, but magnetic. He'll lean in. He'll crave your presence. He'll never take it for granted again. Because now he knows. You don't chase, you choose. And silence was how you remembered your power. This is your transformation. Now go. Live it. Let the silence speak. Let your soul be heard. And let him, the right one, feel the fire behind your calm. Because you are no longer the woman who explains her worth. You are the woman whose silence says everything.